Good morning, everyone. It is 9:45 and we're going to begin the meeting. Welcome to all of you. We have our 5 presenters with us. I have a few words to share and then we will get started immediately. I am Barasch. I have the dual privilege of being the chief executive of a company called NuCycle Energy, a Florida-based sustainability initiative that manufactures a fuel that replaces coal with landfill-bound materials, and the honor of being the moderator for your meeting this morning. I'm honored by Dianne Davis, the founder of the International Council for Caring Communities, our events organizer, and I thank you for joining us all. On that note, I would like to just share a few words about the International Council for Caring Communities, or the ICCC, an organization I've had the honor of being involved with for about 10 years. And it is a not-for-profit organization that has special consultative status with the Economic and Social Council, the ECOSOC of the United Nations itself. It was established in 1993, and it acts as a bridge linking government, civil society organizations, the private sector, universities, and the United Nations together in their efforts as a catalyst for social change. It fosters new solutions that enhance and encourage adaptation and/or replication in both developing and developed countries toward new ways of viewing an integrated society for all ages. The ICCC is mainstreaming the impact of the new digital era and the 21st century's growing age quake. Professor Dianne Davis is here with us. She is the founder of the ICCC, and she will share some words with us at the closing of our meeting. Now, to get us started, today we will have the pleasure and honor of hearing from 5 different presenters from around the world: Japan, Germany, the United States, the United Kingdom, all of whom are experts in their own field, but each of whom has crafted a presentation for today's that applies their expertise to today's overarching subject: digital innovation, fostering leadership for social justice. Each of our presenters will briefly introduce themselves, since they can do that better than I can, and then they will share their presentations with the group. With that said, please allow me to introduce our first presenter, Mr. Yuichi Nakamura, whose presentation is titled Global Teachers Build Peace as an Innovation Hub. Please take the screen and the stage, sir, and we are looking forward to hearing you. Thank you very much.
Hello, I am Yuichi Nakamura, CEO of Nakayoshi Gakuen NGO. Now I'm going to explain about educational practices in the real and the digital world by global teachers. Digital innovation has dramatically transformed the structure of the world, connecting everyone. However, there are so many people who cannot connect with anyone. So the presence of real key individuals is essential for the completion of digital innovation. Similar to journalists being necessary to report the real-time war and conflict situation, the presence of global educators, I call them global teachers, is crucial for educational activities in developing countries worldwide. As an NGO based in Japan conducting educational activities in 7 countries globally, we aim to showcase examples of global educators' practices utilizing ICT to foster leadership and build peace. The world is faced with various social issues: wars, genocide, poverty, child labor, gender inequality, and pandemics, and many more challenges that we have to solve. We need to consider these problems not as someone else's, but as our own. Global teachers verify issues firsthand on the ground and utilize digital devices to broadcast these issues worldwide, making it possible to visualize these problems for people. By communicating through social media, we have made it possible to conduct lessons, classes anywhere in the world, even in conflict areas and refugee camps. Furthermore, by utilizing various digital innovation tools such as online live chats and social media, we have enabled to share the real situation and we can consider social issues of the globe. We appeared in Japanese media many times, not only NHK, National Broadcasting, but Ame Talk, which is the most famous TV program, told our works all over Japan. By solving local issues ourselves, we can raise awareness about global challenges. Japanese companies and local governments possesses wonderful technology. We propose social challenges to them and consider solving these issues using their products and services. Oh, look at this. It is cotton candy machine for science lesson. And look at this. This is Tamiya plastic model cards for rehabilitation of child soldiers and many educational tools we can use in our lessons. And we are able to guide many people's action plans into reality. Only 5-year-old girls wish to reach drawing to foreign friends. Drawing. She wants to teach drawing foreign friends. Or student wish to support friend who suffered from volcano disaster in DR Congo. We are creating many miracles and turning people's wishes into reality. I'll show you some examples. In Cambodia, we are supporting a friend who is a victim of landmines. He created a wheelchair basketball team, and we have supported them with wheelchairs and balls from Japan. His team is now active as a Cambodian national team. And another example, we informed about the real situation of the world to people in Hyogo Prefecture, Japan. Elderly people there came up with a great idea. They recycled kimonos that no longer were worn. They created toys for children from waste kimono. Now we are offering yo-yo balls to children in refugee camps and orphan houses around the world who have never received toys before. And the elderly in Japan are truly happy to see their smiles. And we have built schools and taught basic education and work skills to people suffering from poverty and war. But that has not been enough. Now we are starting several social businesses. One of them is a fashion. Kimono shoes, kintsugi ties. Antonio Guterres tells the kintsugi stories and great original suits we built. Now I wear the tie, kintsugi tie, and the very special suits. Are these good? Of course, it's good. And we create jobs for women in Africa through our social business. And to stop the war, we have taken weapons away from child soldiers and established a school in DR Congo to teach them automobile mechanics. Furthermore, we exported cars no longer used in Japan. We have created a model for them to repair and sell cars. Moving forward, we will continue technical support such as electric vehicles and solar power generations. And we try to create sustainable employment for them. And soon our team developed towns where they never resort to war. In this way, we are conceiving and implementing model for peace building in 4 stages. First, basic education. Second, practical school. Third, self-reliant economy. And fourth, forming global network. Digital innovation has given us a great opportunity. Now we can connect with anyone, even in refugees camps and landmine areas through global teachers. Global teachers foster global students who will go on to create social innovations all over the world. By considering social issues as their own problems and taking action, leadership is born. And it grows the leaders among the next generation. Okay, this is how we are building world peace. Okay, let's build peaceful worlds. Thanks so much.
And thank you so much. Thank you very much. That was excellent. On that note, we will just continue forward through our process, and then we will speak at the end. But thank you very much for that, Yuichi. Thank you very much. So next, I'd like to introduce to the group Mr. Chris Roberts. Chris is the founder of a group, Freedom to Thrive, in the UK, and his presentation is titled Freedom to Thrive. And I have a sense of what this might be about. It's going to be very interesting. Thank you, Chris. Please take us forward. Thank you.
Thank you for the introduction, Mark. Thank you, Dianne, for the honour of presenting to this online session of the ICCC, fostering leadership for social justice through digital innovation. The first picture I thought really epitomizes what we are trying to achieve. How do we create the pathways and the network for the next generation of young people to become the next generation of global leaders? For those of you who don't know me, I will speak very, very briefly about Freedom to Thrive and who are we. We are a group of special needs parents in England who have come together to try and change the perception of disabilities. We are designing a village in England, and the village is based around the special needs community, but it is fully integrated. Unlike all other times in history, we are starting with the requirements for the special needs community first, and then fitting the mainstream housing and the apartments around the special needs. Traditionally, throughout time around the world, you've always had communities and towns where the wealthiest people have built their castles, their villas, the big houses, and then they found small corners for the special needs community. By allowing them to have the space, they are able to start and to thrive, which is the reason why we are called Freedom to Thrive. And we are designing the village as a classic 1930s English community. That leads me on to what I consider to be a very important question. What is social justice? And I wanted to take the opportunity to focus a little bit more on what we consider to be the importance of the equality of opportunity. In these times when we discuss many things, we need to look at the equality of opportunity rather than the equality of outcome, which can be a very controversial and indeed divisive dynamic. And to do that, I wanted to speak a little bit about Artistic. Colin Sugden, who joined us in Windsor in November, and myself are the founders of Artistic, which we founded together in 2015. Artistic works to bring together a variety of artists with special needs and also mainstream artists as well. The whole purpose of it is that when you see an exhibition, you will never see the words special needs artist or autism or anything like that there. The exhibitions and that we put on, we have mainstream artists alongside special needs artists. The difference is that we do things for the special needs artists that they cannot do for themselves. We curate their exhibitions, we choose the artwork, we do the brochures, and we promote the exhibition, and then we sell the artwork on behalf of the artists. So we are, by definition, taking away their disabilities. We are creating that equality of opportunity where the best artwork is the most popular artwork, regardless of disability. I wanted to take the opportunity to give an example of this about one of our artists, Dean Thomas. Dean is a very dynamic young man, and he has gone out with many of our other foundation artists, and we have been working with artists such as Damien Hirst, who you can see here, and the Chapman brothers, and other very famous artists from around the world. And we have got tremendous support now in London and around the world for Artistic after 8.5 years. Dean is autistic. He also suffers from ADHD. Dean could not walk into a space. He could not walk up to people and talk to people, and he struggled at school and he struggled to interact. What we managed to do with Dean, which was absolutely remarkable, is that Colin Sugden was his teacher and mentor for over 20 years. So everything that Dean wanted to do in the world of art, we helped him curate. We hired the exhibitions and we hired the other elements as well. Dean is an incredibly creative young man. And one of the things which he wanted to do was he wanted to study ant colonies and how ant colonies work. So he would create ant colonies as pieces of artwork. He would create a large shape of a sleeping man or a sleeping person as made out of sugar and made out of licorice, which is very popular with ants. And then we would actually have this as the actual art exhibit, which people would film and look for many, many weeks. And the ants would move around and crawl around, and entomologists were also able to come in and observe the behavior of the ants. And this was an incredibly successful exhibition, and it really promoted Dean onto the London art scene. In 1951, we had the Great Exhibition, the Exhibition of Britain after the Second World War, and you had the Royal Festival Hall, which is one of the most famous stages of all time. They've recently laid a brand new stage at the Royal Festival Hall, and they've upgraded the facilities. And they ripped up the old stage. But because Dean is autistic and Dean sees things differently, when other people just saw old timber, Dean saw an opportunity. So what Dean has done, he's taken all of the old pieces of the stage, he's cut them up into areas, and then he's used a laser to actually create pieces of artwork of all of the artists who performed on the stage at the Royal Festival Hall. So you see Frank Sinatra and you see Elton John. So it just goes to show that if you give people with disabilities or people from deprived sections of the community or unheard sections within the community the equality of opportunity, then together they really can achieve remarkable things. So thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you very much. Chris is very embedded in what he's involved in himself personally. He's very vested. It's great to hear you speak. So we'll continue forward. Next, we will hear from Mr. Nathaniel Douglas from Cambridge University, also in the UK. And his presentation, Nathaniel's presentation, is entitled Leveraging Social Capital to Improve Disaster Resilience. And I've also had the pleasure to hear Nathaniel speak before, so I'm looking forward to this too. Please take us away, sir, please.
Well, thank you for the introduction. Today, I would like to talk about social capital, not how it's created in terms of shared identities, norms, trust, and reciprocity, but given that social capital already exists, how to leverage it. One project I've been working on is developing methods to preserve displaced people's social networks during large-scale evacuations. Instead of strangers ending up at Red Cross shelters, one can make it so children from the same school end up at the same place. People have their work communities, religious communities, neighborhood communities. I basically collapse all this network structure into shelters so when people get there, they could take advantage of their social support systems. Methodologically speaking, this is a graph partitioning problem. Given a social network, which is comprised of nodes, which represent people, and connecting these nodes, edges, which represent social affiliations. The goal is to partition this network, where each partition represents a shelter, such that one minimizes the number of edges cut, and thereby preserves as much network structure as possible within each shelter. The specific algorithm I developed can generate shelters either on demand in real time, or when supplied with a prediction before an evacuation even begins. The algorithm can also learn where people are becoming displaced and continuously update a prediction. In this way, I'm always assigning people to where they will eventually know the greatest number of their friends and family. Lastly, I can switch between these strategies mid-evacuation to bring about a better result than deploying any one strategy alone. To showcase the potential of this algorithm, I'm going to share with you an agent-based model I created. The setting incorporates timestamp data of where every person is located at every second of the day, including who they are and what activity they are performing. Superimposed over this data, I'm going to simulate a 6.8 magnitude earthquake on the Portland Hills reverse slip fault and calculate the probability of people becoming displaced. On top of this, I also know the location and capacity of every uncompromised Red Cross shelter. I know the road network. I know how vehicles accelerate and decelerate and how they interact with each other. What you're looking at in this image is the location of roughly 21,000 vehicles belonging to families who will visit an emergency shelter. What you're not seeing, although it is incorporated into the model, is everyone else on the road, including people seeking safe harbor at their home, a friend's home, or a location outside of Portland. Part of the reason why network clearance time is taking so long is that people are traveling home before discovering they need to evacuate. When you're using this agent-based model, I ran 3 different scenarios. I assigned people to random shelters, socially oriented shelters, and nearest shelters. Regarding the social scenario, the algorithm defaults to nearest shelters if there is no social benefit. In terms of average travel times, visiting nearest shelters takes about 120 minutes. Visiting socially oriented shelters takes about 135 minutes. So the question becomes, what is achievable, socially speaking, given 15 extra minutes of travel time? Before answering this question, I want to delve a little deeper into the model and tell the story of a single family as they evacuate. This family lives in a census tract where roughly 17% of people require shelter. Here we can see the family's home represented by the red dot, while other people in the neighborhood also require shelter, represented by the blue dots. These people, unfortunately, are not part of the family's social network. The family is comprised of a mom. The mom's social affiliations are dispersed across Portland, which you can see in dark pink, whereas the school children's social affiliations, depicted in yellow and teal, are concentrated around their elementary school. A handful of the family's social acquaintances also require shelter. If one employs a nearest shelter assignment strategy, these social acquaintances are split across 5 shelters, which is represented by the red color scheme. On the other hand, if one employs a social strategy, these same acquaintances are split across 2 shelters, which is represented in blue. Let's now peer into the nearest shelter assigned to the family. These are all the social connections one would find. Not depicted are 173 families, including the family we've been following, who have no social connections. In stark juxtaposition, here is a socially oriented shelter. Has a friend from work. The older daughter has 2 friends from after-school activities, and the younger child has a friend from elementary school. At the macro level, compared to sending people to their nearest shelter, which preserves roughly 3 to 4% of social connections, the algorithm introduced preserves roughly 72% of social connections, while simultaneously sending 44% of people to their nearest shelter. I should also note that while partitioning is a non-trivial problem, which is solved using a heuristic, upon applying partitioning to the evacuation context, one must reflect deeply on the ethical challenges that emerge anytime certain connections are preserved at the expense of others. Extending to the refugee or migrant context, for those interested in preserving displaced people's social networks across borders, while also promoting shared, albeit not necessarily proportional, responsibility across different nation states, this would also involve the same technology. In closing, the technology presented is not currently implemented. It costs nearly nothing to operate. It could function within existing frameworks established by emergency management. Lastly, a shelter assignment is a recommendation, not a mandate. And if people choose to comply with this recommendation, they will find a greater number of their family and friends at shelters, people with whom they have long-standing histories, which is a unique form of social support. Thank you for allowing me to present today.
Thank you very much, Nathaniel. That was fascinating. So we'll continue forward now. I have the pleasure of introducing to all of you Ms. Melanie Schnepp from Germany. Melanie works with Bosch Mobility Services, and her presentation is titled The Snail Economic Concept, Fostering Leadership for Social Justice. So Melanie, please, we're looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the introduction, Mark. So I now try to share. I hope it is possible technically. I wanted to present to you today the snail concept, its principles, and if there is time, also about a garden. We have heard from Nathaniel about resilience and time, which is under time pressure, and how we are connected. So I would like to invite you to take a couple of seconds to step back and have a look on a picture or 2 pictures and just think about what you see. On the one hand, you see a racing horse with a jockey, really trained, in the best conditions. You see the pressure behind, how fast they are, they're moving things ahead. And it's really, yes, energizing to see it. And on the other hand, you see a small snail by the edge of a knife, just sitting. What does it mean to you? If you think and you compare yourself with those two pictures, where you're fitting in, is it easy to be a racehorse? Is it the way we try to think our world at the moment and where we are trained to do it? If you behave like a racehorse, being quick, being efficient, moving things ahead, but was it how it is to be a snail? What does it mean to you? Is it the same worth than to be a racehorse? But if you look at it, go back, could you be able to stand on a knife without getting hurt? To really refocus and be aware about nothing can happen to you and you're steady on your way, patient? Is this the way you are leading yourself and you are leading others? We are all part of the ecosystem, as Nathaniel already explained. And as Chris said, a part of social justice. It's the world we are creating and the ecosystem we are living in. So we learn on books that we can take out a lot of nature. But if we look on our today's nature we are creating, you see those big cornfields, for example, if you drive through Illinois or else, where you see one corn on the next corn. What does it mean to us? It is fostering a corn and biodiversity is dying. You need fertilizer because the soil is dredging. But if you look on the other hand to a full garden with different types of plants, fostering each other, enabling also to live. So it is a different kind of ecosystem. It's not similar by similar, but different and fostering each other. And if we look to our current situation with infinite growth, with the biodiversity loss, with the velocity we see in the world and the crises we have, how many racing horses do you see surrounded by us in the companies, in the business we are creating, in the world we as leaders, each by each, is creating? How many snails do you find? And if you are leading, how would you see to be a leader for a snail fostering those beautiful gardens in all those differences? So can we question how we do our leadership and how we do our businesses at the moment? Is there a possibility to do it differently? And is this a possible game changer of the things we are currently seeing? Going from velocity to slow, going from large scale ideas to small scale, from profit maximization to purpose, knowing that we only have one world and there is no infinite growth, from monotony to diversity, which is fostering the different types and styles and everyone can find a place in and contribute, like Chris also explained. From competition to cooperation, from volatility and extractive to resilient and restore and regenerate. From a centralization to a decentralization. Can this be a game changer for us? And if you are a leader, which we are all for us in the small thing, how can we foster social justice by empowering different things? So Walt Disney said the way to get started is to quit talking and doing, that these kinds of thoughts behind can be brought into the world. You can see in a little example I just showed to you. You see a very old picture in my hometown where you see an old garden plantage of trees, where we found out that there could be something really beneficial to do things differently. We created a garden, a marketplace, a place to be, to integrate people and to generate a surrounding to enable to get green education to children and itself to grown-ups. So this is how it looks like today. We do markets here to give and foster those people who do handcrafted things, old stuff, not doing it on large scale, but small scale, all to have their own difference and all to have their contribution to it. We give a spot to have cultural events, which are free for everyone, so you can go there and enjoy and contribute also if you want. We have a little collection of all things, of all garden houses, as we say, to preserve also our heritage we have. You see an old, really old train wagon out of 1847 we have in the garden, for example. We have social projects to integrate, for example, children which are not able to start now in the work environment to give their own first trial in business. We do green education so that children which do not have the possibility to be in a garden and understand what a bee is doing have their first feeling that a bee is not a dangerous thing, but has an important role to give the understanding what is surrounding you and also why the different things foster each other. And this is basically coming to an end. So you can only love and protect what you understand. And doing business with purpose, slow but steady in a development, fosters different styles and types. And you as a leader being aware about the benefit everyone can bring, beside of those big racehorses, there is maybe also a way to think a bit more steady and slow, but continuous and resilient. Could be a way of thinking and doing our business maybe a bit differently, just as a brain teaser. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Melanie. That was,
Welcome.
Thank you very much. Our next presenter is Dean Joanne Roll, PhD, who is the business at Medgar Evers College at the City University of New York and the CEO of J.D. Roll Associates. Joanne's presentation is entitled Tech-Enabled Equity, Data-Driven EdTech Solutions for Underserved communities. And this is an education presentation from an education professional. So Joanne, please take the stage, and looking forward to hearing what you have to say with us, to share with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. And I want to thank Dee and the entire ICC team for bringing together this wonderful panel of experts. I've enjoyed every single presentation. Everyone has been different. Everyone has been eye-opening and of benefit. So I'm going to take a few minutes of your time. You know, educators, academicians can't talk, and I have timed myself. I should take less than 10 minutes, Mark. So the title of my presentation is Tech-Enabled Data-Driven Solutions, Elevating Education in Underserved Areas. The agenda will cover, in a very short period of time, overview of global wealth gap, poverty and sustainable development goals, global technology disparity and post-pandemic impacts, education and technology possibilities, collaborations and partnerships, entrepreneurial ecosystems, customized approaches to community-led co-created solutions, and conclusions and a call to action. So first, I want to talk about the why. Why do this work? The poor and global wealth gap, as well as the income gap for Black and Brown people or for underserved areas, has been with us for time immemorial. So that is not new. But how we approach it, and in terms of the massive amount of abundance that we see that technology is driving in some sectors, how do we give access to those who we don't want to leave behind? So let's start with the UN Sustainable Development Goals. The number one goal is the eradication of poverty. And at one point, they thought they were on track to see it slow down. But I can tell you, after COVID and the disparity in technology advancements, the poor the poor is increasing, and the few who are able to garner solutions and garner some of the benefits from the wealth that they're creating, it remains few. And so some of this technology that is driving it, and all the time you hear about AI, but it's not just AI. AI is the soup of the day, but emerging technologies are behind them and other technologies were before them. And the real issue is not the specific technology, but as technology and these shifts continue to change, how do we adapt the workforce, those that we are creating in our institutions and those who have been displaced, the displaced workforce? How do we keep them upskilling so that they could take an advantage? You know, when we had the pandemic, what we saw was, especially in the retail sector where it was customer facing or some other customer facing industries, we saw massive amount of folks who were middle class leave the middle class and go out of the middle class because they were unemployed and underemployed for longer periods of time. They were not able to upscale and to participate as they were before. So it's not just what has happened in the past, but our most recent experience has caused more of a crisis when we start talking about what is happening to the class. So let's point at ourselves first. Education and the educational system needs an overhaul. We have not been able to keep up with industry and the technology transformations as they continue to develop. So the role of education in empowerment, we know education changes lives. Nelson Mandela said it was the greatest weapon to change the world. But how can we make it more relevant? How can we make it faster pace? These are some of the challenges that we face when we look at underserved areas and how they can access a quality education to help them keep pace with the world as it changes. Technology can and is an equalizer. It's how we use it. How do we equip the underserved areas with the technology in education and the technology access so that they too can participate as new entries into the workforce or as entrepreneurs and small businesses that can develop in their neighborhoods and to help change the wealth gap and income gap in their immediate areas. So the emphasis is on capacity building among educators. And I say that because, you know, I'm a first generation college student. My great-grandmother could not read or write. My parents understood the value of education. Now, all five of my sisters, all four of my sisters and my brother have at least undergraduate education, and most of them have graduate educations. And I know from a personal area, personal level, that education can do it, but it's what we equip. What is the education going to be for these new workforce entrants and students? So one area, one discipline, you know, I'm an economist and I love my discipline, but I understand that economics alone is not going to be the shift maker. We need all the disciplines coming together to help work and support and make the transformation happen. And I'm preparing a book. I don't often mention that I'm also the CEO of JD Rowe and Associates. It's a consulting firm, and we have been consulting for over 30 years now. But I have seen globally how changes in mind shifts. You heard a presentation talking about shifts in mindsets. Several of the presentations had it weaved in throughout. In fact, all of the presentations had shifts in mind shifts weaved into their presentation. A university in Nigeria, it knew that the technology was changing and that all of the participants couldn't participate. So they went into private-public partnerships and became a hub. And they didn't just keep that technology to the university itself. They opened it up to the small businesses. They opened it up to the community so that they could help spur growth outside of the academic environment. I'll give you our own personal with the City University of New York. The CEOs of the larger corporations really do need a career-ready workforce. So they're working with CUNY, one of the largest universities in the world, urban universities in the world. They're working with CUNY to redevelop the CIS curriculum for the first 2 years, including not internships, but apprenticeships wrapped into that curriculum. So you have the institutions, and there's several in the pilot working. CUNY is made up of many other colleges. And so we have several of the colleges working hand in hand with those corporations, understanding what is needed, preparing them, but also giving them experiential learning. So it's not just the theory and the concepts that they have, but those students would have had hands-on knowledge working in those communities. So let's talk a little bit about the role of entrepreneurship in the community for transformation. The small businesses are generally around most of the world are the engines of those economies. They hire many in the workforce. And can they afford to keep up with all of the technology changes? And so they need some public-private sector support so that innovation and economic growth could go down to the level of the small business entrepreneur, and they can hire some of those young students and some of those displaced workers as they come out. So let's talk a little bit, and this is what I really love talking about. We have spent lots of funds in the U.S. since the Civil Rights Movement on changing the dynamics of the income and wealth and the income gap and the wealth gap, and it has gotten worse. And I say that because the philosophy was you'd pilot, you build, you scale, and you build one solution that will fit all. Well, one size doesn't fit all. Culture and subculture has an impact on the community. So it's important to, when we're looking at these solutions, to use the data, but to use it by the specific communities and problems we're trying to address. So technology can be an enabler when it's aligned with the specific community and sub-community needs, and not for us just to assume that one size will fit all. So let's talk about a little bit about co-creation. And I will talk about the US. A lot of these policies have been coming down, and they come top to bottom, and they give the money, they give the programs to these communities, and they said, now you use it. And the communities could look at it because they were not co-created in the community. And there's a lot that happens in the community that it is not necessarily written down in a book or known by people in policy, but the people in those communities, the people in those neighborhoods. You heard the last presentation talk about, understanding at the very school level what goes on in the community. The people in the community can help create better solutions if we use them, if we trust them. And so I like the quote by Mahatma Gandhi. Oftentimes we're looking for the government to help come with the change, or we're looking for the large corporations to just give us money. Mahatma Gandhi said, you be the change you wish to see in the world. And so I want to end on a note like that in terms of the call to action. The world is complex, but it can be simplified by simple solutions worked community by community, neighborhood by neighborhood, city by city, country by country, on up to the globe. So let us stop looking at everyone else, starting now. You've heard 5 great presentations. That's what we do. But what can you do with the time, the resources, and where you are right now? How can you help make this world a better place, given that we know that technology is going to be with us? It's not going away. The poor has been with us. How can we help each other for that global goal of eradicating poverty around the world? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joanne. And thank you to all of our presenters. All 5, as Joanne said, excellent presentations. And thank you to all of you who joined us here today to hear these presentations. And now I have real distinct pleasure and honor of introducing to you Professor Dianne Davis, the founder of the International Council for Caring Communities, who will share a set of closing remarks with us. So please, Dianne, welcome.
On behalf of ICCC, I want to thank all our presenters for their input in making this event a meaningful contribution to the UN Commission for Social Development. Their candid insights and suggestions as they address the challenges inspired by us all with a practical reality towards the complexity of digital innovation in fostering leadership for social justice. They have given us new tools and mindsets towards the understanding of how the broad scope of the digital innovation can enhance social justice. I am sure we all have gained from the unique endeavors and creative leadership expressed during the session. Now, let's spread our wings through action that promote the practical endeavors in this digital era. A dream said to be impossible in 1993 has proven over the years that imagining the possible works, especially if we outreach and really listen to members of the community, for their wisdom often enhance our efforts in promoting and implementing the ideas expressed during this session. Without the commitment of so many ICCC colleagues around the world, our mission would not be possible. We look forward to your questions in the chat box and will answer as many as time permits. Again, many thanks for attending, knowing that some of you have stayed up all night to join us. We deeply appreciate your interest and cooperation. A special thanks to Mark Barasch and the entire virtual team that made all of this possible. Wishing you all the pleasures of the season. Back to you, Mark.
Thank you very much, Dianne. Thank you very much, and congratulations on hosting another spectacular gathering and event of thought. Thank you. On that note, thank you all of our presenters, of course, and all of our guests who joined to listen in on all of this great thinking and speaking. And of course, most of all, thank you, Dianne. Dianne Davis, thank you very much for hosting this event and arranging this event and all of the events like it that you foster for the type of thinking and brain teasers that Melanie refers to. Thank you, Dianne.
It's our pleasure. And I just wanted to close with one comment, if I may, and that is, let's listen to our community. Let's not come in with a preset idea of what we can do for social justice, but to listen to them. They have ideas that we haven't even thought about and will help us implement what we have worked on during this session. I hope you have found a couple of aha. I thought about that, but I never thought that we could implement and have been driven forward to action. All the best in 2024. Thank you.